Hello and welcome to Divorce Literacy. I'm your host, Alex Sanchez, and today I have the privilege of spotlighting my good friend and colleague, Stephanie Godwin. Stephanie, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here and welcome. And as I just mentioned, it's an honor to spotlight you because we were conversating before this, and I expressed to you how 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 your profession is really underserved. I mean, what you do for individuals is amazing. And Stephanie, I mentioned to you that I myself went through a divorce years ago, and unfortunately, I didn't have no one offered me your services, the services that you would provide, and I think that would have helped me in a situation where I was going through a divorce. So that's why, I wanted to, I have such a great deal of respect for your profession, Stephanie. I wanted to spotlight you. You kind of give you the opportunity to speak about yourself and the services that you provide, especially for individuals that are going through a divorce, and can't handle that drama. And you need someone to speak to. So, Stephanie, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? How did you get into the field of therapy?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much. And I so respect your self reflection and your kind words. I'm sure that helps you serve your clients well in the work that you
Absolutely.
do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, which that title is inclusive of couples and family work, but can also be a little bit misleading because it's more a description of how we conceptualize cases and issues going on with clients than it is a description always of who's in the room. So the idea is that we're always looking at somebody in context of all the systems that influence how they're showing up in front of you today. So that's everything from, like medical issues, if you start with the person as an individual system, to their family of origin, to their cultural context, and out and out and out and out to all of the things that influence a person. I'd say that's the high level category of um, like the conceptualization that we work with, which I do think is important because there's so much shame and stigma that can come up when talking about a lot of these issues. But when we consider that, I would even say all symptoms that somebody is presenting with make sense in context of their story. I feel like it's that initial exhale where it's like, you're not crazy, there's nothing wrong with you. We just need to contextualize what's going on. So then under that umbrella, I'm also a certified EMDR therapist and consultant. So that is primarily known for being a therapy that works with traumatic memories.
Yeah, and
And
I,
that,
and I was actually, I was, I'm sorry, I was actually
yeah.
on your website, and that's amazing. Uh,
Mhm.
your what you're certifying is that. So speak a little bit about that. Is the EMDR? What does that mean, and what does that actually? How does that actually help a client? That was interesting. I actually, by the
Mhm.
way, folks, Stephanie's contact information and a link to her website will be under this video. So please feel free to read up on Stephanie's background and learn a little more about what EMDR. But Stephanie, tell us a little more about what that is.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So it originated as a type of therapy that works with trauma, but
Yeah.
we conceptualize trauma on a spectrum from big T, which is probably everything that comes to mind when you hear the word, to little t, which is just any event in life that overwhelms our nervous system. Because when that happens, that experience can't integrate in our body in the way that natural learning occurs, and they can get stuck in our brain and end up triggering us later in life. And actually, related to divorce and couples, infidelity is one common thing that I personally work with.
Yeah.
And we often see that the betrayed partner will even develop symptoms of PTSD following the revelation of an infidelity. So It is a little bit hard to make EMDR brief, but you would work together with a therapist to identify something in your life that's triggering you. And then we would look for the earliest and most intense time that you experienced something similar. And then the thing that's the most different about EMDR is then you would choose a memory and go through a set of, so the therapist would ask you a protocol based series of questions to activate different parts of your brain related to the memory. So it's stuff like, as you think of the memory, what image comes to mind? What emotions do you feel? What is the negative belief you're having about yourself? And then you would go through a set of bilateral stimulation, which is primarily done through eye movements, but can also be done through tapping. And there's a few decades of research behind this as an effective model. There's still ongoing research as to why it's effective. But one of the working theories about that is that this type of bilateral movement stimulates the brain in a way that's similar to the way that the brain is activated during REM sleep. So stands for rapid eye movement. It's our deepest, most restorative stage of sleep. But while you're awake and completely aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
So the example I often give, because I think it's easy for people to understand, is if you were in a car accident, right? And then, imagine a few weeks later, you go to get in your car, and your heart is racing and your palms are sweaty and you're having that fear response, right? And maybe it's triggering a belief like, I'm not safe. It's bringing up fear and those uncomfortable sensations in your body. If you were to ask that person, barring some extreme, rare situations of total dissociation where the person has no idea where they are, most of the time, if you were to say to that person, as a fact, do you know that this car accident happened a month ago? They would say yes, right? But everything in their body is screaming that they're still in danger now, right?
Huh.
So often what we see after EMDR, after reprocessing, this bilateral that I'm talking about, is it gives it helps the brain, so what the logical part of the brain knows, connects to the body, right? So what people are often able to say after is, yes, I was in this terrible accident, and that's this terrible thing happened to me, but I can feel calm in my body as I think of it now. And there's lots of implications of this in working with couples, whether it's infidelity or our partner is always the best person to trigger our unresolved childhood wounds.
Yeah.
And it can be very effective in working through that as well.
And Stephanie, you actually made me, I was reminiscing right now while you were saying all this about going back to my case, but you know, I think that even if your services would have been offered to me, I probably wouldn't have taken it. And the reason why, because it's lack of education, it really was,
Sure.
it was such a big mistake for me not to take therapy, because I was still dealing with a lot of, I had just gotten out of a divorce. I was still dealing with a lot of emotional and trust,
Sure.
not being able to trust, trust issues. And I jumped into a relationship without healing. And obviously
Mhm.
that relationship didn't work out. And then, and I feel that's what happens to a lot of clients that, are going through divorce and don't get that healing. So what you said about the
Absolutely.
EMR, I mean,
Mhm.
it made me reminisce of what I went through. And you're
Mhm.
absolutely right. It's definitely something that's needed, especially going through this case. Why do you think there's such a big percentage of individuals that just don't believe in therapy? Why would you
Mhm.
do you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
thankfully, I believe that that is starting to change.
I think so. Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it's
yeah,
extremely vulnerable to sit with somebody and unpack your story, right? And look at the hard stuff. It can be much easier in the moment to drink or overeat or shop or jump from relationship to relationship, or the socially acceptable ones, overwork, over exercise,
yeah.
things that are praised, right? So I think it's really vulnerable and hard to sit down and look at it. But also there's layers to this for so many different types of populations. We socialize men not to talk about their feelings,
Yeah.
and that is dangerous for all of society. The field historically also has really missed and underserved marginalized groups, and we have to own that. Right. So I think that sometimes there's good reason why people are afraid to pursue it. And also with the right therapist at the right time, it can be really powerful, not only for the individual, but also the couple and the family. So we don't work with kids directly at our practice, but they often are the casualty of when things go bad, right?
Right.
The
No,
the,
absolutely.
the pain that we don't resolve, we just
Yeah.
transmit. And so, especially with children being more powerless in the relationship, there's a lot of ripple effect from that.
Yeah. And now, folks, I'm a divorce professional, yeah, but I'm not an advocate for divorce. I always tell everyone that, I'm not here pushing divorce on anyone. And I bring that up, Stephanie, because, Stephanie's, what Stephanie does can help avoid going through a divorce. Stephanie, is that correct or not? I mean, do you actually have couples coming to you before, maybe they're entertaining the thought of divorce, but let's give it a try, so speak a little bit about that, anyone that's looking to kind of like I guess couples therapy.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, on average, most couples wait. I believe when I last read, it was like 5 to 6 years, like too long before beginning
Wow.
couples work. So the earlier the better, even premarital, right? Because
Wait a
there
minute,
we,
you're saying 4 to 5 years from the time that they start having issues and stuff like that, so
yes,
they go through 4 to 5 years going through issues and turmoil before they decided. Wow, that's amazing.
as an average, some
Yeah,
people it's
yeah.
way longer. I mean, we
Right.
work with couples where it's decades,
Wow.
right? So yeah, premarital is always best if marriage is the goal, right? Because there we can intentionally look at our individual like family of origin and what affected, the way that we show up in relationships today.
Right.
Um, as a practice, we specialize in trauma and complex relationship issues. I primarily do the individual trauma work, and my partner primarily does the couples work. Because of we're known for working with complex issues, very often couples that reach out have already done couples therapy before, and this is either going to work or it's not. And she's an excellent couples therapist who's trained in a wonderful model that is very hard to find called relational life therapy. The brief snippet of that is you're working both with the functional adult and the wounded child in both partners. So it's a very powerful work. And yes, we have had couples stay together and have babies that thought they were about to get divorced. And we have had couples separate, and that's okay too. While I'm also not like an advocate for divorce, sometimes that is the better option, and that's okay.
Right.
One of the things that we really like to highlight, it's one of the most underutilized services, is separation therapy. It is okay
Huh.
to know that you're going to divorce and still work with a therapist through that process. One, to honor the years, the family that you shared together. And two, to not destroy each other and everybody else in the process. If we can help people separate respectfully, that has such powerful implications for just the way that you move on, and especially if there's children involved. The only caveat to that would be we wouldn't do either couples or separation therapy if there were issues of like domestic violence, or even like extreme emotional abuse. It's contraindicated. So we would refer for individual for that. But if those factors are not at play, it can be a really powerful and also very, like I said, underutilized service.
That's amazing. I just learned something. I didn't know that separation therapy. So
Mhm.
that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
great. Now, Stephanie, what What kind of qualities or criteria should an individual look for when they're seeking for a therapist? What kind of advice will you give that individual?
Yeah, absolutely. So for better or for worse, but I actually think we have a bit of a ethical obligation to be hard on our profession,
To be
whatever
hard, you said?
to be hard, yeah, like to hold each other to a high standard.
Okay, okay, yeah.
And so there's a few things. One, you definitely need to work with somebody that you're comfortable with. Not everybody is going to be the right fit for everybody, including myself, um, for various reasons, right? So there just needs to be some base level of comfort. The therapist should not be talking about themselves the entire time. And there's tons of evidence-based models of therapy. You just need to make sure that you're working with one that's applicable to your areas of struggle, and what's happening for you, right? So not everybody does like advanced trainings in certain areas, and my opinion is that they're necessary, just like you have certifications in like your niche in this area, with mortgages, right? So I think it's important to work within your area of competence, even under like the therapy category.
Mhm.
And so if somebody tells you they specialize in everything, they don't specialize in anything, and be wary of that.
What's that old saying? Jack of all trades, master of
Yeah.
none, right?
Mhm.
So what kind of obviously you've been in, you've been in practice for many years. You've had a lot of you worked with a lot of clients, a lot of cases. Any particular memorable case, without going into details, that actually
Mhm.
had a big impact on you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, walking through, especially something like EMDR, with someone. So very often I'm working with adult survivors of childhood trauma. So a lot of like sexual assault. There's a lot of things that I won't name all of them. I know they
Right.
can even be triggering for people to hear. But absolutely, when you can witness somebody find relief from something that has haunted them, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's hard to even put into words what a privilege it is. And earlier in my career, I did work with couples initially. And actually, the separation therapy I did with one couple, I always remember them because it was so beautiful to see two people who were both hurting, but still had love for each other. And I
Hmm.
know that's not always the case.
Right. Yeah.
But watching them go through that process well and not like destroy their child in the process, or put the burden of what was happening on their child, was really moving to watch.
Huh.
Yeah.
Amazing. Stephanie, what's the process for someone to acquire your service? Do they contact your office? Do you set up an interview? How's that process?
Sure. So if people reach out through the website, all of the outreaches come to me initially. So it's myself, my partner, and we have two other clinicians on staff. I will see like who would be the best fit for them based on what's going on with them, what their availability is, what our clinicians' availability is, and if I'm not seeing them myself, would connect them to the person who's the best fit. And then yeah, we would sometimes people don't need it, but we do offer like 10-15 minute free initial calls just to make sure that it feels like a right fit for everybody, that people are aware of the fee and all of that kind of stuff, answer any questions.
That's great. And folks, again, Stephanie's contact information, the link to her website will be under this video. Aspera Therapy, and you guys are located in Red Bank, New Jersey. And how long you guys been there?
Elizabeth and I have been there for 5 years, but 3 years as Aspera together. Yeah.
So guys, feel free to contact Stephanie's office and set up an appointment at a minimum. Get some information, and this is something that I highly recommend. It's something that I regret not doing when I was going through my divorce. Feel free to contact Stephanie and her crew to get some more information. And again, Stephanie, thank you so much. I can't end this without having you asking you to give us some final thoughts.
Hmm. Thank you for having me. I mean, I really just would encourage and also respect anybody who's willing to do this work. And thank you for normalizing it and for being a male to normalize it, because that's really important. There's so I mean, middle-aged men have the highest rates of suicide by a lot. So that's another like passion area of Elizabeth and ours, is working with men, because in a way it's underserved because we haven't made it
Fine.
okay for men
Absolutely.
to seek therapy. Yeah. And it's better for their families and children and all of that, not to pass down that pain, right? So just thank you for normalizing that. And yeah, I mean, we're here to answer any questions if we can help.
Definitely, I appreciate you so much, and thank you for what you do and continue to do it, guys. I mean, folks, I really highly recommend this service. Especially those going through a separation or divorce, or even some sort of drama. We all went through a lot during 2020. Having a lot of family members, pass away, and building a lot of uh, drama and sadness inside of us, and for some reason, for some individuals, you know like myself, that kind of like likes to hide stuff and not share a lot. This is something that you definitely need to reach out and speak to a professional like Stephanie and her crew. So guys, definitely reach out. The link is right below. Please reach out to Stephanie and her crew. Aspera Therapy, very highly recommended. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for your time, and I look forward to continue to working with you.
Same here. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.